In the heart of a bustling bank, a sharp crack shattered the marble silence. The branch manager had slapped a woman across the face. Gasps echoed, phones shot up, and the live stream counter climbed by the thousands. He sneered, calling her trash and unworthy, while customers stood frozen between outrage and fear. Yet the woman he humiliated did not break. Her calm eyes hid a truth powerful enough to topple his entire career. Within minutes, the world would discover her real identity, and nothing inside that bank would ever be the same. The morning traffic on Main Street drifted past the glass facade of First National Trust, a hush of engines and footsteps that softened as the doors whispered open. Naomi Carter stepped inside and paused beneath the chandelier, letting the light catch on the polished floor and the bronze letters mounted behind the teller stations. The lobby smelled of paper, metal, and roasted coffee from the corner machine. Every sound traveled. The click of heels. The slide of deposit slips. The low hum of printers. The place was designed to make money feel inevitable. She wore a gray wool coat that skimmed her knees and a pair of understated Italian flats. Her hair was neatly tied back, revealing a face that carried the kind of calm people missed when they were rushing to judge. In her hand rested a leather portfolio, softened by time and travel. Inside were documents she had read twice already, and a boarding pass for a late flight, JFK to London. She checked her vintage Cartier watch and noted the time. 10:47. 73 minutes until the board convened uptown. On the far side of the lobby, Assistant Manager Grace Lee glanced up from a tablet, assessed the growing line, and breathed in carefully. She was practiced at triage. Teller too short. Mortgage desk running behind. Investment window still closed. Grace signaled a junior associate to open another window and then moved toward the loan counters, where branch manager Richard Hale had begun his circuit. He liked to be seen. He liked to be heard even more. Richard wore a navy suit that fit like a uniform and a smile that rehearsed superiority. He greeted a pair of executives with a handshake that lasted a fraction too long, and corrected a clerk on tone of voice with a whisper that was not a whisper. When he turned, he found Naomi standing near the loan desk, waiting with a numbered ticket in her hand. He saw the coat before he saw the woman. He saw the flats before he saw the eyes. He saw what he wanted to see. Kayla Brooks stood by the ATM with a phone in her fingers and a student check in her pocket. She was streaming her errands to a small circle of friends, half commentary and half habit. Her camera panned lazily across the lobby and landed on Naomi just as Richard approached. The audio caught the cadence of the marble room as if it had its own heart. Richard stopped a breath away from Naomi. His nostrils flared at the scent of fresh coffee from his cup. He spoke in a tone that suggested there had already been a problem, though there had not. He asked what she was doing there. Naomi answered evenly that she wished to discuss a loan product and a corporate account update. She kept her voice soft and paced, the way one would speak when surrounded by breakable things. Mrs. Wong, seated near the investment desk with a folder of retirement statements, watched with a stillness sharpened by decades of knowing when a moment mattered. She adjusted her glasses and followed the exchange with unwavering attention. Across the room, Head of Security Daniel Ortiz stepped from behind the loan officer stations, drawn by a murmur he did not yet understand. He had the calm of a man who preferred facts to assumptions. Richard shifted closer. He glanced at Naomi's coat, then at the scuffed edge of her portfolio, and decided it was enough to place her. He told her the premium branch handled certain clients and this was not that. He raised his chin as if the air near the ceiling was cleaner. Naomi listened. She did not move. She gathered her application pages on the counter and aligned their corners with a care that suggested habit rather than fear. The lobby tightened. Conversations thinned to threads. Grace approached, ready to insert a buffer of professionalism, but Richard lifted a hand and kept speaking. He talked about standards and clientele and resources. He took Naomi's number ticket from her fingers without asking and dropped it in a bin that emptied at closing. The gesture was small and brutal, like flicking ash on linen. Kayla's viewer count ticked upward. It was not a viral jump. It was a steady climb, the kind that starts to tug at attention in a dozen different group chats. The camera tightened on the exchange. The phone's microphone caught the indrawn breaths of people who did not intend to watch but could not look away. Mrs. Wong stood slowly, as if standing were a statement. Daniel stepped to the edge of the scene and addressed Naomi with respect. He asked if there was anything he could help with. She said she was here to speak with management about a lending review. She kept her eyes on Richard while she said it, as if inviting him to hear himself clearly. Grace opened her mouth to redirect, but Richard's voice rose and filled the space that should have belonged to discretion. Naomi's phone buzzed once in her coat. The screen flashed a name she knew well. She silenced it without looking. She returned her attention to the stack of papers and to the man who had decided that a stranger's dignity was a negotiable expense. The chandelier light found the gold lettering on the edge of her boarding pass. The corner of the pass slipped free and winked against the marble. Richard's patience ended where his pride began. He stepped into Naomi's path as she reached for the fallen page, crowding the distance that polite people keep. His words sharpened. His palm lifted. The sound that followed was not loud so much as pure. Skin to skin. A single, flat note that traveled through stone and glass and human bone. The lobby froze. The chandelier kept shining. The clock above the tellers continued its silent march toward 11. Naomi's cheek blossomed red along the line of his fingers. She straightened. She gathered one page, then another. She breathed once. She looked at Richard Hale and set down her portfolio with the care one reserves for instruments that can break the world. The sound of Richard Hale's hand striking Naomi Carter's cheek lingered in the marble air like a bell struck too hard. Conversations cut off mid-word. Pens stopped scratching across deposit slips. A teller froze with coins balanced in her palm. For one breath, the lobby was a photograph, every motion suspended in disbelief. Naomi did not cry out. She did not recoil. She lowered her eyes to the floor where her papers lay scattered in disarray. Slowly, carefully, she bent to retrieve them, her movements deliberate and unhurried. The sting on her skin was real, but her composure was intact, as though the slap had only sharpened her focus rather than broken it. Richard's chest rose with the satisfaction of a man convinced of his authority. He gestured broadly to the security desk. "Get this woman out of here before she embarrasses herself any further. Our customers don't need to be disturbed by her kind." His words carried across the hall, harsh and unguarded. Daniel Ortiz, head of security, stiffened but did not move. 12 years in the job had taught him to trust his instincts, and his instincts told him Naomi was no threat. Yet Richard's command hung in the air, daring him to obey. Kayla Brooks, phone clutched in her hand, zoomed in on Naomi's cheek, already pink from the strike. Her live stream had swelled from a few dozen viewers to hundreds. Comments poured across her screen. "Sue him. What year is this? Get his name badge." Kayla whispered urgently into her mic, "This manager just hit a woman in front of everyone. You're all seeing this live." Mrs. Wong stood, her cane steadying her as she stepped forward. Her voice, thin but unshaken, broke the silence. "That was uncalled for, Mr. Hale. I saw everything." Her words drew eyes toward her, but Richard waved dismissively. "Please, Mrs. Wong, don't involve yourself in matters beyond your understanding. We have protocols for disruptive individuals." Naomi gathered the last page, her hands smooth, her face unreadable. She rose to her full height, nearly matching Richard's, though her presence seemed to stretch beyond him. "I would like to speak with your district manager," she said evenly. Richard barked a laugh that ricocheted against the marble walls. "District Manager Thompson doesn't meet with people who wander in looking for handouts. You think you can demand time with executives while dressed like that?" Grace Lee, the assistant manager, approached quickly, her shoes tapping in sharp rhythm. She had seen Richard bluster before, but never like this. When she opened her mouth, he cut her off. Don't coddle her, Grace. She's not a customer. She's an interruption. Naomi's phone buzzed again in her coat pocket. She ignored it. She adjusted her papers and held them against her chest like a shield. By now, Kayla's stream had crossed 1,000 viewers. Screenshots of Richard's name tag were flying across social media. Hashtags were forming in real time. Bank shame blinked across feeds. Comments scrolled faster than Kayla could read. This is going viral. Call the press. Expose him. Daniel spoke up at last. His voice was calm, almost cautious. Mr. Hale, code yellow is for real threats. This woman has not been aggressive. She's simply collecting her papers. Richard snapped around, his tone sharp enough to cut. I gave you an order, Daniel. Do it. But Daniel didn't move. His hesitation was its own quiet rebellion. Customers noticed. The balance of the room shifted, subtle but undeniable. Naomi met Daniel's eyes briefly. For a moment, he felt as though she were measuring him, not as a guard, but as a man deciding what kind of professional he wanted to be. Then she looked back to Richard. Richard gestured toward Naomi's phone, which flashed again with a new call. The leather case gleamed with gold corners, unmistakably expensive. His lip curled. See that? Probably stolen. That's how people like her carry fancy things while begging for charity. The accusation struck the crowd harder than the slap had. A father pulled his daughter behind him. Two executives whispered in disapproval. Mrs. Wong's eyes narrowed. Kayla whispered into her phone, he just called her a thief, this is unbelievable. Naomi's portfolio slipped open slightly, revealing the edge of her boarding pass. Daniel caught a glimpse of the embossed gold letters, first class. JFK to London. Today. It didn't match the picture Richard was trying to paint. Not at all. Naomi closed the folder, her movements as calm as before. The sting on her cheek had faded, replaced by something deeper, steadier. Richard raised his voice, declaring to the lobby, this bank serves successful Americans. Not charity cases. Not welfare dependents. Not drug dealers. The word hung like poison. The lobby gasped. Kayla's viewer count doubled in under a minute. Hashtags multiplied. The story was leaving the building before Richard even realized it. Naomi did not flinch. She did not respond. She simply stood, documents gathered, waiting for Richard Hale to dig the hole deeper. The clock above the teller line ticked to 10:52. 68 minutes until the board convened uptown. And Naomi Carter still had not revealed who she truly was. The hum of the bank was gone, replaced by the restless shifting of customers who no longer knew if they were safe or complicit. The slap had drawn blood and spirit, and Richard Hale's words had finished the wound. His authority filled the lobby like a bad perfume, thick and suffocating. Yet beneath it, something else was rising. A different kind of power. Kayla Brooks's phone trembled slightly in her hand as her live stream surged past 2,000 viewers. She could barely keep up with the flood of comments. Call the police. Expose this man. Who is the woman? Her audience was demanding answers faster than she could speak them. She whispered, his name is Richard Hale. Branch manager. First National Trust, downtown. The chat exploded. Naomi Carter's cheek still bore the faint outline of the slap, a scarlet reminder of what had been done. She did not raise her voice. She did not step back. She simply looked at Richard with eyes steady as stone. She adjusted her documents into a neat pile, her calm and indictment sharper than any insult. Mrs. Wong pushed forward with her cane, ignoring the uneasy glances of the guards. I've banked here longer than you've been alive, young man, she said to Richard. Her voice was small, but it carried. And I've never seen a manager behave like this. Richard flushed but waved her off with a flick of his hand. "Mrs. Wong, please. This isn't your concern. We're dealing with a disruptive individual." "Disruptive?" Mrs. Wong snapped. "You struck her. You called her names. That's what's disruptive." Her words cracked through the air like glass shattering. Customers began whispering more openly now. Some recorded. Some simply stared. The lobby was no longer his kingdom. It was a courtroom, and the trial had already begun. Daniel Ortiz, still standing at the perimeter, shifted uneasily. He had been told to call in a code yellow, reserved for armed threats or dangerous situations. But nothing about Naomi matched that category. She was poised, contained, professional. Daniel's instincts screamed that Richard was pushing too far. Naomi's phone buzzed again. She let it vibrate in her pocket before silencing it with a simple press of her hand. She did not need to answer yet. The timing wasn't right. Not with the lobby watching. Not with Richard exposing himself word by word. Grace Lee, the assistant manager, finally found her courage. She stepped forward and spoke, her voice calm but strained. "Mr. Hale, perhaps we should move this to your office. Away from customers. Away from cameras." But Kayla, with her phone lifted high, answered for her viewers. He slapped her and called her trash. "Everyone's seeing this. He wants the cameras." Richard's jaw tightened. His pride, already wounded by the whispers, ballooned with anger. "We have nothing to hide," he declared, his voice echoing against the marble. "This bank doesn't cater to freeloaders. Not now, not ever." The livestream viewer count leapt past 4,000. Hashtag scrolled faster than Kayla could read. Hashtag banking while black. Hashtag first national shame. Naomi's portfolio slipped open again as she shifted her grip. This time, Daniel caught another detail, an embossed credit card tucked neatly inside. The black plastic was unlike any he'd seen in a customer's wallet. He frowned, unease growing in his chest. Kayla whispered into her mic, "She's calm. Too calm. Like she knows something he doesn't." Mrs. Wong moved closer, her voice rising. "You've humiliated this woman in front of everyone. And for what? Because of how she looks? Because of your assumptions?" Richard turned, his voice harsh and commanding. "Mrs. Wong, please step back before you get hurt." The crowd gasped. An elderly woman threatened. The whispers turned louder. Phones were raised higher. The receptionist's desk phone began ringing off the hook. Word was already spreading beyond the walls. Customers who had seen Kayla's feed were calling the branch directly, demanding explanations. Daniel finally spoke, his voice steady, his authority equal to Richard's. "Mr. Hale, I strongly suggest we stop this here. The situation is escalating." But Richard only sneered. "Escalating? Good. Let them all see how we deal with people who don't belong." Naomi finally looked up from her papers, her gaze steady and unshakable. "Richard," she said softly, "you should call corporate." Her words were quiet, but they hit with the weight of inevitability. The crowd stilled. Grace froze. Even Daniel hesitated. Richard laughed, sharp and cruel. "Corporate? For you? You won't even get past the lobby." Naomi's phone buzzed once more. This time, she looked at the screen. The name flashing across it was unmistakable. She declined the call, then slipped the phone back into her coat pocket. The clock above the teller stations ticked. 10:56. 64 minutes until the board meeting. And Richard Hale had just stepped deeper into the trap of his own arrogance. The phones in the lobby began ringing like alarms, each call a hammer pounding against the polished facade of First National Trust. Receptionist Janet's voice grew strained as she answered again and again, "I'm sorry, I can't comment on that. Please hold." Yes, we're aware of the situation. Her words trailed into static as the calls piled higher. Kayla Brooks's live stream viewer count surged past 6,000. Her hands trembled as she steadied her phone. Everyone seeing this, she whispered, her voice both horrified and exhilarated. This manager just accused her of being a drug dealer. In front of all of us. This is going viral. The comments screamed across her screen. Tag the news. Call civil rights lawyers. This is discrimination, clear as day. Mrs. Wong stood firm, her small figure now glowing with moral authority. She lifted her chin and addressed the guards circling Naomi Carter. Officers, this woman has done nothing wrong. I have watched from the beginning. Her words quivered but did not falter. One of the younger guards replied, "Ma'am, please step back. We're following orders." Orders. Mrs. Wong's voice snapped like a whip. I know bullying when I see it. That man struck her. That is not protection. That is violence. The crowd erupted in low murmurs of agreement. People who had once averted their eyes now turned squarely toward Richard Hale. The lobby had transformed into a stage, and he the villain in front of a growing audience. Richard's face flushed crimson, but pride drove him on. You don't understand, Mrs. Wong. We're safeguarding the bank's reputation. No, she replied firmly. You're destroying it. Daniel Ortiz's jaw tightened. Every second that passed confirmed what his instincts had been shouting. Something about Naomi Carter did not fit the caricature Richard was forcing. She carried herself like someone used to commanding a room, not begging in one. Naomi herself had not moved except to steady her portfolio, her papers now neatly stacked. Her coat remained buttoned, her phone still buzzing occasionally in her pocket. She exhaled once, soft and measured. At 10:58, the double doors at the front swung open. Channel 7's news van had arrived. Reporter Lisa Chung and her cameraman strode in, lenses already raised, lights flashing across the marble lobby. We heard there's been an incident, she called, her voice cutting through the crowd. The moment the camera's red light blinked alive, Richard's fate shifted further beyond his grasp. Kayla's live stream shot upward, 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 viewers. Screenshots flooded Twitter. The hashtags multiplied, hashtag banking while black, hashtag first national shame, hashtag justice for Naomi. Grace Lee hovered at the edge of the circle, caught between duty to her boss and loyalty to her conscience. Her lips trembled as she said softly, Marcus, maybe we should. She stopped herself, realizing she'd spoken his name aloud where cameras could catch it. Richard's rage flared hotter. No. I want everyone to see how we handle disruptions. This bank is for successful people. Not people who don't belong here. The silence that followed was suffocating. Every head turned toward Naomi. Every phone angled closer. Even Kayla held her breath, waiting. Naomi straightened slowly. She lifted her gaze to Richard, her eyes calm, her voice steady. Richard Hale, she said, you have exactly 60 seconds to reconsider your position. He laughed, cruel and sharp, the sound of arrogance clinging to its last branch. Or what? You'll call your social worker. Your lawyer. You don't belong here, and you never will. Naomi opened her portfolio with deliberate precision. The papers parted to reveal a black, laminated ID badge that caught the chandelier light. Letters gleamed in gold, First National Trust Corporation. Board of Directors. Naomi Carter, Chief Executive Officer. The room froze. Gasps spread like fire through the crowd. Sarah Park, standing at the side, went pale. Daniel Ortiz stepped back instinctively. Mrs. Wong's lips curved into the faintest smile. Kayla's live stream exploded, 12,000 viewers in seconds. Comments poured in, she's the CEO. Plot twist of the year. He's finished. Naomi's voice was quiet, but it cut like a blade. Or I will call an emergency board meeting to discuss immediate personnel changes. Starting with you. The hush that followed was absolute. Even Richard's breath seemed to fail him. His laughter had died in his throat, replaced with a choking silence. The clock read 11:04. 56 minutes until the board meeting. But for Richard Hale, time had already run out. The chandelier light caught the gold lettering on Naomi Carter's badge again, and the reflection seemed to burn straight into Richard Hale's eyes. His mouth opened and closed without sound, his mind scrambling for purchase. For 12 years he had ruled this branch with unchecked confidence, but in one heartbeat, the foundation cracked. Naomi did not rush. She slipped her phone from her coat, pressed 3 digits, and spoke with calm clarity into the receiver. This is Naomi Carter, CEO, authorization code Zulu 77 Alpha. Dispatch corporate security to branch 47 immediately. Her words were amplified by the hush of the lobby, every syllable ringing against the marble. On the other end, the voice responded crisply, "Yes, ma'am." ETA 4 minutes. The line disconnected. Phones tilted higher. Kayla Brooks's live stream rocketed to 15,000 viewers in less than a minute. Comments screamed across the screen. "She's the CEO. This is unreal. He's finished in front of the world." Richard's knees threatened to buckle, but pride dragged him upright. "That badge could be fake," he sputtered. "You can't just print one of those." "You don't." Naomi withdrew a second document from her portfolio, embossed with corporate seals. Emergency Workplace Investigation Protocol. Case number 2024-891. Initiated this morning after credible reports of discriminatory practices at this branch. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Grace Lee's hands trembled at her sides. She realized this was no coincidence. This confrontation had been building for weeks, maybe months. Naomi had come here not by chance but by design. Mrs. Wong nodded slowly, as if the pieces had aligned in her memory. "I knew she wasn't ordinary," she murmured to no one in particular. Daniel Ortiz felt the weight of vindication settle into his chest. He had trusted his instincts, and now the truth stood radiant before him. Richard tried to recover. His voice cracked as he said, "I was protecting the bank's interests." Her appearance, her coat, her attitude, it looked wrong. Naomi's eyes did not waver. "You thought I was what you called me," she replied, her tone as steady as stone. "Trash. Welfare queen. Drug dealer." Each word landed heavy, reflecting back his own venom until he flinched. The glass doors opened. 3 figures in dark suits swept inside, led by Director Jennifer Kim of Corporate Security. Her eyes scanned the lobby in one practiced sweep, registering the players instantly. She moved toward Naomi with brisk precision. "Ms. Carter, we received your call. Documentation equipment is active. Body cams recording." "Thank you, Jennifer," Naomi said softly. "Please begin official proceedings." Jennifer turned to Richard. "Mr. Hale, please surrender your employee identification and access cards. You are under investigation for discriminatory misconduct and physical assault of a corporate officer." The words dropped like a gavel. Richard stammered. "This is a misunderstanding. I didn't know who she was." "You weren't supposed to know who I was," Naomi said evenly. "You were supposed to treat every customer with dignity. You failed that test." Kayla's livestream viewer count surged to 20,000. The comments blurred too quickly to read. News outlets were already pulling her footage, slicing clips for breaking reports. Grace found her voice at last, shaky but clear. "For the record, I tried to de-escalate. I asked that we move the discussion to your office. I never supported physical confrontation." Jennifer Kim's tablet beeped as she logged the statement. "Noted. Thank you, Ms. Lee." Daniel stepped forward. "For the record, I was ordered to call code yellow. I refused, because there was no threat. This woman showed no aggression. Also noted, Jennifer replied crisply. Richard's desperation clawed at him. You set me up. This is entrapment. How was I supposed to know? Naomi's voice silenced him. This was no trap. This was an opportunity. An opportunity to treat another human being with respect. You chose arrogance instead. The crowd listened as if each word was law. Even Mrs. Wong felt her heart pound at the justice unfolding in front of her. The lobby doors opened again, and a fresh gust of cold air swirled inside. Naomi's watch read 11:06. Corporate security was here. The evidence was recorded. The case against Richard Hale was sealed. In less than 10 minutes, the man who had slapped her would lose everything. Corporate Security Director Jennifer Kim activated her body camera and raised her voice just enough to cut through the crowd. This interaction is being recorded for official corporate investigation. Her tone was crisp, professional, and mercilessly neutral. Richard Hale's face blanched as though the marble floor beneath him had tilted. Please, this is a mistake, he stammered. I was protecting the bank. She looked like. Like what? Naomi Carter asked quietly. Her calm made the room lean closer. Like someone beneath your standards. Like someone who didn't belong. Richard flinched, his own words mirrored back to him with surgical precision. Jennifer glanced at her tablet. Mr. Hale, according to multiple recordings, you made the following statements: get this trash out of my bank. Welfare queen. Drug dealer. You also made physical contact with Ms. Carter, striking her face. Do you deny any of this? Richard's lips trembled. His eyes darted toward the cameras, then to the cluster of phones. I was trying to maintain order. Yes or no, Mr. Hale, Jennifer pressed. The silence was suffocating. Finally, Richard's voice cracked. Yes. The admission thundered through the lobby. Kayla Brooks's live stream surged past 25,000 viewers. Her audience erupted with disbelief and triumph. He admitted it. This is history. Goodbye career. Naomi withdrew another document from her portfolio, unfolding it with deliberate grace. The paper bore the heavy seal of corporate authority. Termination authorization. Executive override protocol. Effective immediately upon evidence of criminal assault against customers or corporate officers. The words were soft, but the effect was seismic. Richard's legs gave way, and he collapsed into one of the leather chairs, his face buried in his hands. Jennifer extended her hand firmly. Mr. Hale, your identification, keys, and access cards, please. His fingers shook as he unclipped the badge he had worn for 12 years. The same badge he had used to intimidate staff and customers now lay in Jennifer's palm as evidence of his downfall. Grace Lee swallowed hard. Her voice broke slightly as she spoke. For the record, I opposed Mr. Hale's actions and attempted multiple times to redirect the situation. Naomi turned to her, her gaze softer. Your professionalism has been noted, Grace. It will be recognized. Daniel Ortiz stepped forward as well. I also want to state that I refuse to call a code yellow because there was no threat. The order was inappropriate, and I would not follow it. Exactly what I expect from security personnel, Naomi replied. Richard lifted his head, desperation carving lines into his face. Please. I can fix this. Sensitivity training. Apologies. Whatever it takes. Don't end my career over one mistake. Naomi's expression did not harden, nor did it soften. This wasn't a mistake. It was a revelation. You revealed who you are. And who you are is incompatible with our values. Jennifer tapped her tablet. Employment Termination Code 7 Alpha. Gross misconduct resulting in corporate liability exposure. Effective immediately. The word struck like a final verdict. Richard Hale's career was not only ended, it was erased. His employee email account was disabled, his access revoked, his benefits terminated. The corporate machinery moved with ruthless precision. Naomi turned her phone screen toward Kayla's livestream, displaying the stock price of First National Trust. At 10:47, when you struck me, shares traded at 127.43. 23 minutes later, after this incident spread online, they traded at 124.67. A loss of $847 million in market value. Richard's face drained of color. The cost of his prejudice had been measured in real time, and the world was watching. Mrs. Wong's voice broke the heavy silence. He thought he was protecting the bank. But all along, he was destroying it. Naomi nodded once, her composure never wavering. She checked her watch. 11:10. 50 minutes until the board meeting. The crisis had begun here, but its impact was spiraling outward. Richard's shoulders slumped. The man who had strutted through this lobby moments earlier now looked like a shell emptied of arrogance. He whispered hoarsely, "This isn't over." Naomi's eyes met his, calm and resolute. "You're right. It isn't. Your actions today will be studied in every training session across this company. You will be remembered, not for your power, but for your failure." Corporate security flanked him, their hands light but firm on his arms. His 12 years of authority ended with the click of polished shoes escorting him toward his office to collect a cardboard box. Kayla's camera followed, her voice trembling as she narrated to 30,000 viewers. He called her trash. He slapped her. And she was the CEO the whole time. Now he's packing his office. The lesson was already writing itself. And Naomi Carter was just getting started. The lobby buzzed with energy that felt less like chaos and more like transformation. Richard Hale was escorted out, his shoulders hunched, a cardboard box in his arms. Phones tracked his every step, but the real focus had shifted to the woman still standing at the center of it all. Naomi Carter, no longer undercover, no longer mistaken, but revealed in her true authority. Corporate Security Director Jennifer Kim handed Naomi a sleek tablet filled with documentation. "Ms. Carter, evidence collection is complete. Legal, HR, and public relations have everything they need." "Good," Naomi said, her voice steady, carrying to every corner of the room. "Now let's ensure this moment isn't wasted." She stepped toward the bank's central digital display, tapped her laptop, and projected a document onto the glowing screen above the teller counters. Large bold letters spread across the wall, "The Dignity Banking Initiative." The crowd hushed, watching history unfold. Even Kayla Brooks, phone still lifted, forgot to narrate for a moment. Her livestream comments slowed as viewers paused to absorb what they were witnessing. "This branch," Naomi began, "will not be remembered for scandal alone. It will be remembered as the starting point for change. Effective immediately, Branch 47 is our pilot location for the Dignity Banking Initiative." Grace Lee blinked rapidly, scribbling notes as Naomi's words poured like law. Bias recognition training becomes mandatory for all customer-facing employees. Not annual refreshers. Quarterly, comprehensive sessions with real-world scenarios. Kayla's viewers reacted instantly. Quarterly training, finally. This should be everywhere. She's rewriting the rulebook live. Naomi continued, her tone firm but accessible. Customer interaction protocols will be rewritten. Every individual will receive the same level of service, regardless of appearance, accent, or perceived economic status. Daniel Ortiz raised a cautious hand. "What about legitimate security concerns?" Naomi met his eyes. "Legitimate concerns involve actual threats, Daniel. Not assumptions based on clothing or race. Security will continue to protect customers, but it will be based on behavior, not bias." The display refreshed, bullet points filling the screen. Phase 1, Immediate Implementation. AI-powered customer interaction monitoring. Bias detection algorithms analyzing transaction patterns. Real-time coaching alerts for employees. Mrs. Wong leaned forward to read the glowing text. Technology that spots discrimination before it festers. That's smart. The plan advanced to Phase 2, Cultural Transformation. Community Advisory Board formed with local residents. Monthly audits by third-party civil rights organizations. Public quarterly reports on progress. Grace whispered as her pen raced across her notepad, "This is beyond one branch. This is industry reform." Naomi's gaze scanned the lobby. Success will be measured by data, customer satisfaction across demographics, resolution times, and complaint metrics. Mystery shoppers representing all communities will test the system. Transparency will not be optional. The display shifted again. Phase 3, Systematic Expansion. $2 million Community Investment Fund for Minority Business Loans. Minimum 40% management representation from diverse backgrounds. Partnerships with civil rights organizations for oversight. Phones rose higher, capturing every word. The livestream counter surged past 35,000, the comments a wave of applause emojis, clenched fists, and the word history repeated endlessly. Finally, the last slide appeared. Phase 4, Industry Leadership. Annual Discrimination Prevention Conference hosted by First National Trust. Open-source bias detection software shared across the industry. Congressional testimony on reform standards. Naomi's voice deepened with conviction. We will not hide behind closed doors. We will lead, in public, where accountability cannot be erased. Prevention costs less than crisis management, and dignity costs nothing at all. The lobby erupted in applause. Not polite clapping, but real, raw recognition. Employees clapped. Customers clapped. Even the guards, still at their posts, exchanged approving nods. Kayla's voice finally returned, shaking with emotion as she narrated. She's not just firing him. She's changing everything. We're watching a new chapter of banking begin right here. Naomi turned toward the camera knowingly. Quiet resolutions create repeated problems. Public accountability creates permanent change. Today was Phase 1. But we begin implementation now. The time was 11:25. The board meeting awaited in 35 minutes. But Naomi had already redefined what the agenda would be. Sunlight poured through the glass facade of First National Trust, Branch 47, casting long beams across the polished marble floor. The lobby felt alive in a way it never had before, voices carried not with tension, but with trust. Customers of every background moved freely. A family speaking Spanish received patient assistance from a bilingual teller, an elderly veteran in worn clothes shook hands with a lending officer about a small business loan, and Mrs. Wong sat proudly at the investment desk, her portfolio open beside a young black financial advisor. Above the entrance gleamed a bronze plaque, Dignity Banking Initiative. Excellence in Inclusive Service. 2024. Naomi Carter stepped inside, her heels striking the marble with quiet authority. 6 months had passed since that morning when Richard Hale had struck her, and the lobby had transformed into a model of inclusion. Every eye that turned toward her carried respect, not because of her title, but because of the change she had set into motion. Maria Santos, the new branch manager, approached with a warm smile. Young, Latina, and once overlooked for promotion, Maria had risen quickly after consistently achieving the highest customer service ratings in the city. Welcome back, Ms. Carter. We're honored to have you here. Our team has been waiting to show you the numbers. Naomi returned the smile. I've been looking forward to it. Grace Lee, now promoted to Regional Diversity Officer, joined them with a sleek tablet in her hands. Customer retention across demographics is at 97%. Minority business loan approvals have reached $8.2 million in just half a year. And our Employee Diversity Index has surpassed 47% in management roles. 0 confirmed bias incidents in 6 months. The words carried pride, but also relief. Grace knew what it meant to stand on the right side of history, and she carried herself with renewed confidence. Daniel Ortiz, promoted to head of corporate security training, greeted Naomi with a firm handshake. We've integrated de-escalation and bias recognition into every security program across 400 branches. Our teams are trained to see people as individuals, not assumptions. It's changed everything. Naomi nodded. That's exactly what I hoped for. Nearby, Kayla Brooks stood with her phone lifted once more. Her original live stream had grown into the most watched corporate accountability video in history, with over 50 million views. Today, she was filming a follow-up for her loyal audience. 6 months ago, this branch was infamous for discrimination, she narrated. Now it leads the entire industry in fairness and inclusion. And it all started because one CEO refused to stay silent. Her viewers filled the comment feed with praise. This should be taught in every workplace. Real change is possible. Dignity banking forever. Naomi paused by the digital display above the teller counters. Instead of advertisements, it showed live metrics, customer satisfaction, transaction completion rates, and complaint resolution times. Every number glowed green, proof of progress. Mrs. Wong approached, her cane tapping softly. At her side walked her granddaughter, who clutched a brand new savings account booklet. She's opening her first account today, Mrs. Wong said with pride. And I wanted her to see what dignity looks like. Naomi crouched slightly so her gaze met the girl's. This bank belongs to you just as much as anyone else. Don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise. The girl smiled, shy but certain. Mrs. Wong's eyes glistened. Naomi rose, her phone buzzing in her pocket. Messages from board members, regulators, even corporate leaders in other industries filled her screen. Harvard wanted her to lecture. Civil rights organizations wanted her testimony. The NAACP had nominated her for a leadership award. Yet for Naomi, the real victory was right here, in the small interactions now rooted in respect. Grace stepped closer. Ms. Carter, may I share the most important feedback we've received? Customers say they feel seen and respected, regardless of background. That's what matters most. Naomi's gaze swept across the lobby, the diverse staff, the welcoming smiles, the hum of equal service. That's the measure of success, Grace. Not numbers. People. Kayla turned her phone toward Naomi, live to tens of thousands. Ms. Carter, what do you want the world to take away from this story? Naomi faced the camera, her voice steady, her eyes clear. Change doesn't happen overnight, but it begins when individuals demand better. One moment of injustice can ignite transformation if it's documented, witnessed, and answered with accountability. Dignity isn't negotiable, in banking, in business, in life. Everyone deserves respect, no matter how they look or where they come from. The camera caught the bronze plaque above the entrance as Naomi spoke her final words. This story began here, but it belongs everywhere. Justice is not an option. It's the standard. The livestream counter swelled again, thousands of hearts and applause icons filling the screen. Customers clapped. Employees smiled. And the bank, once disgraced, now stood as a beacon of reform. The marble floor shone brighter than ever, but the true transformation was invisible, a culture built on dignity. Naomi Carter had turned humiliation into history, and history into hope. Justice had prevailed, not through vengeance, but through transparency, accountability, and lasting reform. The story of Naomi Carter reminds us that dignity and respect are not negotiable. Prejudice, arrogance, and discrimination may grant someone false power for a moment, but truth and accountability will always prevail. Real leadership is not shown in wealth or appearance, it is revealed in how we treat others, especially those we underestimate. This story is a work of fiction, written to feel realistic so the lessons can be understood and reflected upon. Thank you for watching and supporting our stories. If this video inspired you, Please share your thoughts in the comments, give it a like, and subscribe to our channel for more powerful narratives. Your engagement helps us continue creating stories that touch hearts and spark change.